Okay, cool. Looks like we are recording. So we are here at Mothers Illuminated with Sarah Hankins. So Sarah, I'd love you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got there.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I'm Sarah. I am a neurospicy mom of seven, ages 9 through 23. And we live in the middle of nowhere on purpose, and we homestead and radically unschool. And I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur of sorts. I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur, but once I started having kids, it was like, okay, I want to be able to stay home. And my fifth child was born with some medical issues. And what I was doing hair. And that was no longer an option because we didn't know if we would have to take her to the hospital or, a doctor's appointment would come up. And when you're scheduling your own appointments and you have to cancel a bunch of times, clients don't tend to stick around for very long after that. So that's how I got started, dipped my toes into doing Etsy things and even bartering. Bartering is still one of my favorite things to do, like trading services or trading things. And then after my fifth child was born, we had to use baby carriers often because she was born with bilateral club feet was one of the issues that she had. And so she couldn't really walk or she wasn't mobile. And we're not like an active like sports family, but we like to do things. We like to go hiking. We like to explore. We need to, those sorts of things. So I was really into baby wearing with the woven wraps that are really long pieces of woven cloth. But with her full leg bent knee casts, that was a little difficult. So I branched into looking around for like a buckle carrier or a Maytai, and they didn't quite fit right. Like they didn't fit my frame the way I liked. So I made my own. And because I was in community on Facebook, is what I call it, with other baby wearing moms, they started asking me if I would be interested in making them carriers, right? And so that's how I kind of got started into that was the first business that I grew from scratch all the way up to six figures. I had hired an independent contractor after 2 years to sew the things so that I could do like the artistry and the stuff on the hood. Went through changes in the government, like mandates as far as testing and all of that. And was doing that for about 6 or 7 years. So it was great. But then some shit happened with my kids, and I had to say, okay, well, my kids come first, right? And so between that and then the government, testing things, it was a lot. So I said goodbye to that business and got things back under control for a couple of years, and then came back around and was like, okay, I'd like to try something again because we like to have the extra money to go have, fun and do things. Plus, to be able to do something just for myself that is beneficial to other people in one way or another really lights my soul on fire. So the second time that I went into it, I decided I didn't want to make the things, right? Because I was making the carriers and shipping the carriers, and we had an online community on Facebook, and it was a lot. So I was like, well, maybe if I don't make the actual things that I sell, it will be better, right? So then I decided to order clothing. And I started the community around that and did all the flat lays and took pictures and all of that. So my room full of sewing machines and fabrics and all of that got swapped out for a room full of inventory. And I was still shipping, that sort of thing. And what's really funny is there was a time in that adventure where I had to decide, okay, what do I really want? Because the next step, I wasn't really comfortable like doing this sort of live on camera thing. Like most people that know me joke and they're say, you must be an extrovert. No, I'm really not. Like I can be an extroverted introvert. Like if I know people and I'm comfortable with them, then I could talk for days. Or because I'm neurospicy, if you ask me a question about something that I've like deep dove into, like I'm happy to chat all the time about that, right? But there was a time because I was making enough with the clothing, doing flat lays and pictures and all of that, but I wanted to take it to the next level, right? So that was one specific time that I can share that I had to decide, like, I didn't want to go on camera, but I wanted to be up here. right? So then I had to just take the messy action and do the damn thing. And it was scary, right? Like it was uncomfortable and not my favorite thing. But the more that I did it, the easier it became. And soon enough, it was like I had always done it, right? So that business also grew to six figures and was doing that for 4 or 5 years. And then something else happened and I had to put it on, on the table again. And that's okay. Because when you have kiddos and you're married and you're doing all these things, sometimes shit happens that is outside of your control and it's your choice what you want to do with it, right? After that, after a few more years, I decided I wanted to do something. So I tried to go work for somebody else for a little while. And it was fine. It was great, just getting out of the house and that sort of thing. But quickly realized that I much prefer working for myself and decided that I would figure out how to do that again. But I didn't want a whole room full of anything this time, right? So I decided first to go into creating a resource for homeopathy because there are a lot of people that are into herbs and like essential oils and things like that. Homeopathy is like further away from that. And so the way you use it and the way you diagnose and the way you treat symptoms and things like that, it's just very different. And I was finding that a lot of people that I talked with didn't quite get it. They couldn't go through the stuff that was online and understand like how to use it. So I created the resource. I found school last February, something like that, and went on my way with that. And in the process of doing that, found the main school community and my people, my tribe. Like I've built businesses, from scratch to six figures within 2 years, twice, and never went to business school, never found business people that I really fit in with, right? Because I didn't speak the jargon. I didn't abide by the rules of how to do things. And when I found the main school community, I found other people like me that could be authentically themselves and share their medicine or, whatever they came here to share with the world unapologetically. Right. And so that was amazing. And it was only a few more months before what came to fruition is what I'm currently doing. The homeopathy got shelved last November. That group got archived until and if when I decide I want to do it again, because it could be. I don't know what the future holds, right? Like I try to not decide that things have to happen a certain way, because had I done that last spring, I would not be where I am today. And I am now helping other business owners, right? Like not just business coaches, but like I've got people that have dance communities and people that help neurospicy folks and parents and, divorced dads and all of these different niches in my space that I'm able to help. I'm able to help them grow their own business their way without telling them how they have to do things my way, and helping them remember who they are and being able to step more fully authentically into themselves so they can make money doing what they love. Because I could start a whole bunch of different school groups. Homesteading, homeschooling, parenting, like bulk batch cooking, building a pantry, like raising holistic chickens, like all of these things, right? But I would much rather help other people build those things for themselves so that they can provide for their families and do things that they love and not be stuck where they think they're stuck now. So that's it.
I love it. I love it. Also, like we connect on a lot of things too. So I would love to be living out in the middle of nowhere with chickens and intentionally be far away from the rest of society. So I love that. So I really want to touch base on, you said you built these two different businesses from scratch. And I mean, you had no prior experience in business before, which
Nope.
is amazing. So how did you get like the first time around? Because I think a lot of people, they work really hard at it for several months and they don't get any traction or they don't get any, no wins, so to speak, right? And they feel like they want to give up. It's like, oh, this isn't working. So they either pivot and completely change direction and figure maybe something else will work, or they, keep working at it and they just can't seem to figure out how to make it happen. So How did you kind of navigate that while you were doing it?
I don't know if I had a specific strategy. I'm kind of one of those people that is kind of stubborn. Like, and I knew within my being that once I started, that I was going to, like, if I kept at it, that it would be fine. And it's a matter of just talking with people, right? So, like, the offer that I started with in business stuff last summer isn't the one that I have now, right? Like, there's been slight pivots, there's been slight adjustments, there's been a lot of talking with the people that I help to see what they need and what they want, right? And building around that, not what I think they should need or want next. So it's a lot of that. I think that's one of the reasons why it was not necessarily easy. It's not easy, but I really love talking with people. I love understanding like what makes them tick and what their issues are and just helping them figure things out. So it wasn't, I mean, there was always stuff coming up. There was, roadblocks and pitfalls. I joke all the time, right? Like, entrepreneurship is one of the quickest ways to flesh out the inner work, right? That you need to work through and do to be able to get to that dream life or that goal that you want to reach. Because you cannot like, if you had all of the stuff in the inner work not fixed, but worked through to be in that dream life, you would be there already, right? So it's a matter of being able to sit and ask yourself, right? Like, it's really easy because you get into these roadblocks or whatever, and you have these feelings come up and you have these thoughts start happening. I call it the mindfuckery, the overwhelm, and the confusion, and what do I do, and is this really working, and all of that going around, right? It's really important to remember that you're not your thoughts and you're not your feelings, and you can sit up here, right? And you can also ask yourself questions, right? There's another thing that happens that I hear from a lot of people is like, oh, there are a lot of people that are afraid to be seen. Because what if they say something, right, that's true for them, or that they, want to share, that would actually draw their people closer to them, but it also repels other people, right? Or it ends up having people comment on their content being like, well, I don't agree, or, naysayers and all of this other stuff, and they don't want to deal with that. Right. But you can then decide whether or not you want to, like, is it true? And if it's true, doesn't matter. Like, you have to remember that that's on them. Like, people are going to come, they're going to say things to you. They're going to, like, pick at you because you're doing something that they're not. And what if you're doing something that they would really love to do, but they're not willing to do it, or they're not going to? So that's their way of, like, picking at it, to help you stay stuck because they like you where they are. And instead you're trying to grow and to accomplish other things. And they're afraid to be left behind, but it's just about being consistent and showing up for yourself and being willing to get curious, to ask yourself those questions, and to decide that you're not going to take other people's energy or their naysaying onto yourself, right? Like, if they're not paying your bills and they're not, like, your partner and, important in your life, like, why are you going to allow that sort of negativity to affect what you're doing? Because it's going to throw you off your path, and that's not ever worth it. Not ever.
I love that. And I'd love to ask you too about, you mentioned like negativity from the general public, which 100% agree. Like, why would you let that bother you at all? But I also, like, a lot of the clients that I talk to and a lot of the women that I talk to, especially moms that are trying to build businesses, they do get a lot of negativity from their partners as well. So what's something that I guess, like, is that something that you experienced while you were, going through all of this? And how do you think that would have affected your success overall? And then if there is someone that's going through something like that, what would you tell them?
So it's been a while since I started the first one. And because I kind of dipped my toes into the Etsy stuff and, like, bartering, like, I didn't do things the way that everybody typically does. And so my husband, like, watched me do those things. And watched me. Like, I didn't set out that first business to like make a lot of money or like, and I didn't have a lot of output, right? Like, I didn't use a lot of our personal money to start up, kind of thing. I did it very slow and intentional. And, when I took on somebody to make a carrier for, they paid for at least the supplies upfront, right? So that kind of helped too. And I think that every time that I've started a business, he's always been kind of like, what exactly are you doing? Like, people are going to pay you for that? Like, all of that. But now that's been, 20 years since I've been doing this sort of thing. And so like, even last summer, like when I told him that I was switching from, I was doing this business coaching thing, really? People are going to pay you for that? And I said, yes. And he was like, okay. Like, he's learned, right? Like, he knows that when I say I'm going to do something, he doesn't know how it's going to happen. And I don't typically know how it's going to happen. I just keep making the next right step, right? I keep trotting along and doing my thing. And then it's more of like a watch me. Like, I'm just like, to the naysayers, like, just watch me. And it's not that I'm like puffing my chest up or like telling everybody in the world what I do. Like, the bulk of even my family, like, they know I'm doing something online. They know I'm helping people, but they don't know the nitty-gritty of it, right? And so I don't necessarily have to explain all of the things that I'm doing to everyone. And there have been times where I've like had to work more than I would have liked to. And so like Hubs and I had to have conversations about, maybe pulling back a little or figuring out a way to like bring more support on in one way or the other so that we could work through as a family together to work through the mess, right? And so like I haven't had the part where he's like, you can't do a new business, you can't do this, like, why would you even try? And like, or that kind of naysaying, or like him picking at me like when things aren't going as quickly or as well as I would like he's not that type of person. So I've been blessed in that way. But to somebody who's dealing with that sort of thing, I mean, there's a whole lot of deeper questions and like other things that I would want to talk to them about and like help them work through. But at the same time, it's like communication is key. Managing expectations is key, whether it's the business expectations or the kids or the marriage or, whatever. Communication is key. And so figuring out how to be able to communicate and when shit happens, because shit will happen, whether it's with the family or with the business, and hopefully not all at the same time, it will happen. And so like the communication is the ultimate key to be able to work through things, and then the managing of the expectations for sure.
I love that. So let's kind of backtrack, because in 2 different times, you made 2 successful businesses within 2 years, which is absolutely amazing. What would you say was it just kind of the perseverance that led you to that success? Or are there specific systems that like you now teach your clients that you're like, oh, they have to, like, if they do it this way, this is what's going to help them get to the success? What do you think was the most crucial part of your success? Because I see so many moms that want to do like drop shipping or want to like create and sell their products, but then it becomes a very, it's expensive to create things, and then they can't really get people to pay them the amount that it would be worth for their time and labor, right? So that's one of the biggest things I see, especially with crafty types of businesses. But
Right.
regardless, right, what would you say kind of led the most to your success?
Being willing to take my time, not rushing things. I don't operate like this is one of the reasons why I've not really ever fit in with a lot of business folks, is because I don't have systems and I don't make to-do lists and I don't have boxes that I try to fit things in. And there are a lot of days like, this is me personally, like, and I work with several people that prefer to-do lists and checklists and things like that. And I help them create those things for themselves, right? But personally, I work better when I have a variety of things to work on, whether it's content or, actually making the product or delivering, on the service, things like that. So that way I can choose, right? Like, I intentionally set up my life for flow, to happen as much as possible, because when you're juggling a business and when you're juggling kids, I've got 7 of them. I didn't have all 7 at once. There are no twins. So like, and at this stage of my life, like with this business adventure that I'm currently on, my youngest is 9, right? With the other 2, I had at least 2 or 3 under the age of like 8 or 10, right? So I completely get it, when you have to figure out how to work in the nooks and crannies, right? And when you have to figure out how you can work when Hubs is home or at nap time or before they wake up or after, that sort of thing. It's more about just showing up every day, and you have to realize that you don't have to show up for big hour long blocks at a time. Even now, like most of the time I do not sit in front of a screen for 2 or 3 hours. I am like taking 5 or 10 minutes here. I'm doing, a client call. Like I only have 1 or 2 days a week where I take and do my high coaching for the one-on-one type thing. And the rest of the week, I don't schedule things on purpose so that I can fit things in where they need to be and will in a manner that works for my family and for my kids and myself. So just realizing that things are going to take longer than you think most of the time, right? Like, yeah, that might have been the fluke the first time, but I also had some previous experience with Etsy and like shipping stuff. And then I had, I was doing hair, but I had my own booth and set my own hours and did all of this stuff. So like I had some previous experience and I already had a presence in the online communities where my ideal customer hung out. Right. So if you're starting from scratch, you don't have a following anywhere. You haven't really been in places where your ideal client hangs out. It's going to take a little bit. And then there's the process. Like if this is your first time starting out, like it's going to take a little bit to like niche down or figure out who exactly you're targeting, like and what they exactly need and how they speak about it. That's one thing that I see a lot of people do. Even like seasoned business entrepreneurs, they speak in a lot of jargon or they pretty up their language and they don't say things in the way that somebody would if their ideal client was speaking to them. And it makes you feel more professional, but then it's going to make it harder to land your clients because they're not going to resonate with the words that you're using. So those are the few things that I would recommend, I guess.
I love that. And I think like one of the things that I've heard a lot too is it's almost like a trend like this, right? It's like you work really hard and you don't really get anything, and then you just keep testing all the different things, the phrases, the outreach, the content, all those different things until finally it clicks, and then it just skyrockets, right? Like I've seen that so many times. And so I love that you've been able to repivot your business several times too, to be able to fit your lifestyle and fit what's going on in the world. And I love, especially, I'm hoping you can kind of elaborate a little bit on the medical challenges and kind of what navigating that was like, because as another mom with medically fragile kids, and I hear it a lot too, where I have, clients who they really struggle and they say, oh, well, I don't have enough time. I've got, kids that have all these different appointments, and so I don't have enough time to work on my business. And so I'd love to kind of hear how you navigated that for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And it depends. So the one kiddo that was born with medical challenges still has their different medical challenges now. But I also had another kiddo that was born, like was in the NICU for a week and had speech and physical therapy for years and that sort of thing. So like, it's not just one kiddo. A couple of tricks would be for the one kiddo that had a lot of medical issues, I would try to either batch her appointments, like if they were standing appointments, like in the same day, depending on how much she could tolerate, right? Like making sure that I'm not driving somewhere every other day, that sort of thing. And then having therapy come to the house and just trying to figure out how to maneuver the schedule in a way that suits you best and your family and also honors the kiddo. Because if you're trying to like batch a whole day's worth of therapy and appointments, they may not be able to like do the things they need to do for therapy and stuff like that. And it may end up taking you longer to recoup from that rather than spreading it out, right? So you've got to figure out what works best for you and your family. Besides that, it was really a lot of fitting work into the nooks and crannies, and also letting things go that weren't necessarily important. Like I have not ever been one to like clean my baseboards on the regular. Like, and if I couldn't get to the laundry for a few days, or maybe I washed it and then it got dried and then sat on the couch, right? And I had a mountain of laundry that needed folded. Like, so there are things you've got to figure out what are the most important things. And also, if you have a partner, talk with them to figure out what the non-negotiables for them are and figure out a game plan, right? And you can schedule things, or you can figure out, even I joke because I do operate in flow, but because I operate in flow and things tend to happen in certain ways, it ends up being kind of a loose schedule anyway. It's just not written down anywhere, right? So it's just trying to figure out what flow works best for you and what are your non-negotiables and what can you let go of, right? And so that may take a little bit of inner work, because a lot of us are brought up, oh, this is the way that a mom looks and what she does, and this is the way that a wife operates, and this is how the marriage should look and all of this other stuff, right? And I had to go through a lot of that too. It's like, okay, well, this is the way that I thought this had to be, because I did run into myself things like adrenal fatigue and thyroid issues and other things, because I was trying to fit myself into this box, right? Like, this is what a homeschooling mom of 7 should look like and do, and how a wife should operate, and all of these things. And I made myself physically ill, which is not good. But I see a lot of women, and I talk to a lot of women that end up in a very similar spot. And then it's kind of like a wake-up call, and they're like, oh. And then you start realizing that you don't have to do everything that we've been taught, and you realize that this people-pleasing thing that we've been doing for so long, or the good girl, whatever that we've grown up with, like, maybe I don't have to do all of that. Like, and that doesn't really negate from who I am, or if I'm a good person, or if I'm a good mom or a good wife, or like whatever. Right. But it takes a little while sometimes to get to that point, I think, because society and because of schooling and because a lot of, whether it's faith or something else, like, we're brought up, this is how it is. Right. And when you're a kid, you want to fit in, you want to be loved, you don't want to be kicked out from the tribe. Right. Like, that's a biological response. And a lot of the times we take those things in and then we just continue them almost on autopilot. We don't ever question to figure out what works best for us, for our marriage, for our family, for our children, for our business. So.
Love all of that. And then what would you say is, because now you're doing the coaching, right? And so you're helping other people. What's your specific niche do you have a specific niche, or is it just kind of everybody? And how did you figure out, how you wanted to get into coaching? Like, how did you figure out your niche? How did you figure out your tribe? How did you figure out all of those different things?
It's typically online entrepreneurs. Like, I could help people that have physical, like, brick and mortar businesses too, but the bulk of people that I talk to are running online businesses. So that typically is what I attract. I tend to, because I am neurospicy myself, I tend to attract a lot of neurospicy, multi-passionate humans, which is great. I freaking love it. It brings a lot of, excitement and culture to my spaces, right? Because these are the people that are trying to figure out how to niche down, but really are having a hard time with it, or they're neurospicy and they haven't figured out yet how to turn their neurospicy quirks into superpowers, right? So that whole thing that I was talking about, like, one of my quirks is like, I need to have things to choose from, right? Because of my neurospicy, I don't like to be told what to do, because it's going to be like, why do I have to do it that way? Like, I'm going to try it every other way first. So that way, whatever, I want to make sure that what you're telling me is true, right? But having those things to choose from helps my neurospicy and helps me actually get done more in less time, right? And to be able to honor the quirks and to fully welcome them to the table, I am able to help others do that too, which is amazing. And I freaking love it. So I work with online entrepreneurs. The bulk of who I work with right now is school owners, but I definitely can work with people that host on Kajabi or, just run like the one-time purchases and like do those sorts of funnels and things like that. I help people with content. I help people with figuring out messaging and things like that to get their ads to actually convert. And so like it just like there's a wide variety of what I can help with because I am the way I am and I deep dive into things. But the bulk of what I do is I help online entrepreneurs remember who the fuck they are and make money doing what they love, regardless of what the world says they think that they should be doing.
I think that's so cool. And I think like, especially in today's day and age where it's like everybody's telling you this is the top business to get into for 2025. And and of course you always hear like the wealth, health, and relationship niches. Those are the top niches. And like, well, I agree, those are the top niches because of human desire, but it's like you can be successful in just about anything. And I think that that's so important for people to hear because, and I had it recently because someone, I was doing a workshop and I talked about the health, wealth, and relationship niches and kind of how like those kind of tap into human desire, but you can also do things like offer masking and stuff like that. And somebody had DM'd me after that and they're like, oh my gosh, like, how do I fix my niche? Because I'm teaching people how to play piano. And I was like, I don't think you understood what I was trying to say because like you can still be successful at like teaching people piano is like has one of the, it's a super old type of thing. Everybody's been doing that for forever. Like you can obviously make money in it. It's been tested and proven, right? And so it was just funny to me that I think some people like really get so hung up on this, like making sure it's the perfect niche so that you can actually make money versus just saying, okay, is it proven? Is it tested? Like, has somebody done it before? And the odds are yes. And if somebody has, then I can too. And so I guess bring me around some of like the mindset changes that you help people with, because I'm sure that's a huge part of the program that you do.
It is. And that's the whole offer masking thing, right? Like the bulk of what I do is I help people get out of that mindfuckery and actually do the next damn thing, right? So like you were talking about, so the person who's coach that wants to teach piano, right? And they're swirling about what should I offer? What should I do? No, you need to start talking to people who want to take piano lessons and then you can refine from there, right? Maybe you attract people that want to learn how to play piano, learn how to play keyboard to land a gig in a band and they want to make money, right? You can totally go that route, right? But maybe you want to land parents. They want to teach their kids, right, how to play piano in an easy way. There's so many different facets of what you can do, even with something like teaching piano. And so it comes down to figuring out, and that's just bringing people in. Always bring people in and get feedback as you're building rather than stay stuck in the what should I offer or what if it's not good enough or I need to no, just jump in. And I know that's freaking scary. I know it. But it's so worth it because then you start actually getting feedback, right? And you can figure out who you like working with. Like, it's not just about who will pay you for it. It's who do you enjoy working with? Because even if people are paying you and you really don't like working with them, or you figure out, oh, this offer that I thought I loved isn't quite right. Like, I actually love doing this even more. Like, staying stuck in that is going to drain the life out of you and you're going to get burnout quicker and you're just going to give up, right? So it's always okay to pivot too. I don't recommend radically pivoting and like popcorning everywhere when things get hard because I see a lot of people do that. That's not what I'm saying, right? But if you are continually working and you're continually getting feedback and then your inner gut, especially as women, like if we're talking to moms and things, and I know if you haven't been like listening for it can be hard to hear, but a lot of the times like this even goes to like when you're in the middle of momming and you're working and all of this stuff and your inner being's like, hey, we need to go to the bathroom, we need to get a drink, we should eat something, and you're just like, oh, I need to get this thing done, right? And I need to push through. But that's not good for you, and that's not good for your body, and then the voice will never get louder. So that for the important things that you could listen to and honor the inner yes or the no or whatever that your spirit is like nudging you towards, right? Because the more that you can get to know and like remember who you are and listen to that inner voice, the easier it is to figure out what the next right step is, and to actually just, you know, honor, like, if I don't like to work with this person, it's okay to not work with them. Like, don't be a jerk, don't be a butt, but like, it's okay. And when you shut one door, there are other doors that open, maybe not immediately, but then you're starting to walk in alignment, like, with what is honoring, you know, what you came here to do, and also being able to help others in a better manner, right? Because if you're only half-heartedly helping somebody, they're going to feel that, like, whether they acknowledge that or not, they're not going to get the results that they could have. And then that affects your referrals and your word of mouth and everything else. Whereas if you're like a full-fledged, let's go, yes, I love working with this type of people, I love doing this offer or service or whatever, like, that sort of energy like multiplies itself, and then your clients get more they get better results in less time, and they are more stoked about it. So they tell their friends, and they leave you like bomb ass reviews that you can use elsewhere. And that's where things start compounding, right? Like we talked earlier, or you mentioned about how a lot of the times it's like a, you know, this, like, I talk often because we homestead, right? When you're first starting out, it's like you're sowing seeds, right? And like, it takes a while. And there's also prep work to do, like whether it's that inner work that you've got to work on to actually get yourself to like talk to people and like figure out what you want to do. So that's like the weeding and the tilling, or the, like, depending on what kind of gardening you're doing, right? Because there's all sorts of different types. We won't go into that right now. But you got to do the prep work to the soil, right? Maybe your soil's not good enough. You need to bring in some other like compost, and then you plant the seeds, right? And you plant all the seeds, but maybe they don't all come up. And that's okay, but you're continuing to plant seeds, right? And it takes a little bit, and then finally they sprout. And then there's more weeding and more watering and making sure that they've got light, right? And then they grow and they grow and they grow. And we'll take tomatoes, for example, because I love tomatoes. I only eat garden tomatoes now because tomatoes from the grocery store taste like they're not good. We'll just say they're just not good. And so you get these tomato plants that finally grow, right? And you see all these green tomatoes. You're like, ooh, it's going to be soon. Ooh, I can see it, right? I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then it takes 2 or 3 more weeks at least. It takes longer than you think. And so you've actually got, you know, your whole kitchen table full of like ripe rainbow different colored tomatoes, right? So business is kind of like that. Like, you're going to have the ebbs and flows. You're going to, you know, walk through some things you don't want to. You're going to have to do some weeding. You're going to have to do some tending to your inner being. But if you continue to keep going, this stuff is going to like roll in. It's going to come. You know, it's just about continuing to go on. That's all.
Yes, absolutely. And like, if I could just loop that back and just have everybody watch that over and over, I feel like that would just be so helpful. And I love the analogy of the gardening with tomato plants. I don't garden. I would love to be able to garden, but we don't own property yet. We're saving up right now for that. And I like, that is my first thing. Like, as soon as we get a property, I'm prepping soil for gardening. Like, I am so excited. I don't know if I have a green thumb yet. We'll find out. I could just kill everything, but we'll learn, right? And we'll adjust and do what we need to do. But I love that. And I think it's so true. Like, we are constantly, you know, prepping and improving our product to figure out like, what are the parts of it that worked really well? What are the parts of it that didn't work so well? How can I make more of my program resemble the parts that went well? You know, and how can I just keep improving everything so that, you know, I get better results for my client. I can get more clients coming in. I can get more people referring people, because, you know, I always tell my clients, like, you want to be the best money that someone's ever spent. And if your product isn't good, your business will never work out. And so the number one priority is focus on the product. And the more you improve it, the more it will naturally grow, you know? And I think that that's so true. And I love, like, I love the analogy that you were saying, where it's like, you start to see the little fruits budding and it's like, oh, there it is, it's coming in, but you still have to wait, and you still have to keep putting in the work, because if you stopped watering, if you stopped doing all those things right then because you saw buds, you're never going to get the fresh tomatoes, right? So I love that so much. And then so I know you grew most of your businesses on Facebook groups, which now you've transitioned to school. And I agree. I love school so much more. I'm on there. I don't do Facebook all that much anymore either, besides to transfer people to school. So I would say, what's the biggest differences that you see between Facebook and school? And give me a little bit about kind of the strategy that you used around building community, because even when you were doing it in Facebook before school, you still had the aspect of building community to be able to nurture and sell your products. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
All of the ways that school is better than Facebook. We'll go over the major ones, right? And so, like, my baby carrier business, that was 10 or 15 years ago when I started that. So Facebook was much different than it is now. Like, the Facebook of today is very different. Like, you used to be able to get reach there. You didn't have to pay for ads all the time. And it just was a different environment. And today, that was one of the reasons why I wasn't going to build on Facebook this time. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I started looking for a platform with a community space and being able to hold calls and do classes and, things like that didn't have all of the crap that Facebook is full of now, right? So your people don't ever see your stuff, hardly, right? I had a friend tell me that they worked with somebody who said they were posting 25 to 35 times a day in their Facebook group. And it's that's almost what you have to do to get a certain percentage of people to actually see what you post in your group, not on your page, right? And that's kind of ridiculous to me. And then in your group, you have ads from other similar groups, from competitors and things like that. And there's almost just so much school is very simple and it's very pared back, but Facebook has almost way too much noise, way too much. Not cool. And I hear some people talk about how, well, Facebook's free. When you really think about it, it's not. Because yes, school costs money, but what is money really? You get money from working, from your time, right? And if you have to spend more time and energy to get the same amount of people to see your stuff on Facebook than you do the money it takes for a month's worth of school, even if it wasn't all that it is, I understand that the $100 can feel like a lot when you're first starting out, but I would also challenge you to find out where there are things that you can cut back, or what can you set, figure out a way to get it moving and grooving, because I promise that you will get more traction on school and your people will actually see your stuff and they will actually come back and check out your space more often than, the Facebook gig. What was your second question? My neurospicy brain forgot.
That's okay. And then a little bit about the strategies behind growing a business in a community environment, because you use communities this whole time. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I don't have strategy. I just like talking to people. I'm an enigma, right? So hopefully I remember that question when I come back.
I thought that in itself is a strategy too, though, because that's what community is. It's just talking to people.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Right. It is. It's just talking to people, talking to people elsewhere and asking them questions and, being a human. So that's another thing that I help people with is creating more engagement, creating a better culture in their space, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's, on school. How do we get people to actually come back without nagging at them? How do we get them to enjoy, right? I saw that, I don't always agree with the Hormozy stuff, but there are some things that I do agree with. And Layla was on one of the school games recordings from last year before they merged, when they had the 1 days. And she was talking about, there were 4 different quadrants, right? So if you have a shit experience and your product doesn't get results, people are automatically not going to stay around, right? But then in this corner, it was they get the results. They get great results, but the experience is shit. They'll stay for a while until they find something better. Over here is where like they get okay results, but the experience is phenomenal. The people will stay here longer than they would over here where they get better results but less experience. And the goal is to be up here where you get great results and you have a great experience, right? So that's what I help people with, to be able to create a culture, right, that suits them and suits their people. And people come and they chat and they hang out. One of the key things that I see a lot is that when people start their school community, they just talk about their niche. They just want to make posts about what the group is about, right? Like, I help you make more money. Okay, here. Or even worse is where they're just trying to pitch, like if it's a free group and they're just trying to funnel people up to paid. Like, that just feels icky. Like, it just feels icky, and it's not going to cultivate that kind of experience and culture that you need to have the longevity and having people bring other people in because it's so fun or it's so great to be there, right? And it's not that it always has to be fun. I just did yesterday, I do shit share posts occasionally, like every 2 months or so. And it's like, because I know I'm helping business owners, right? And shit happens. And it's not all unicorn farts and rainbows all the time. And I want this space to be a space where people feel safe enough that they can share the things that are going on, whether it's with business or, you know, personal life or whatever. And it could be small things. You know, it could be something very small. It could be huge things. I've got the whole gamut in my space about, you know, people going through their various things. And so I make sure that there's a space for that there. We do posts. I do posts. I love the moon cycles and astrology and stuff like that. So I make posts when it's the new moon or full moon, do check-ins. Like, how are we doing? You know, what are we moving through? Like, you know, that kind of thing. Are we setting intentions or, you know, expectations for ourselves and things like that? We talk about the food we like to eat. We talk about, right? It's a matter of like thinking about how you would talk to people and hang out in real life. You're not just going to be, oh, you know, join, you know, we're at this party. You should come to my party over here. You know, it's $100 to come in, but this is where you can blah, 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 right? No. Hey, how are you? What you got going on this weekend? You know, oh, you did that? Like, how was that? You know, what's your, you know, you get to know them as human, right? And a lot of people, when they start an online community business, they forget how to be human somehow. And they forget to ask those sorts of questions. And it's okay to make those posts, right? And it's okay to be like transparent. Like, if shit happens, like there was one time where because I don't run by a calendar, I set alarms on my phone, and with the time change, I forget what happened, but like the alarm didn't go off right for my group call. And like, I was just like messing around in school, you know, 15-ish minutes after it started. I'm like, oh shit, why does that red light blinking at the top of why does it say live? You know, and inside I was like, oh, I could just say, you know, something came up with my kids or, you know, whatever. No, I hopped on the call and I was like, hey, dudes, I'm so sorry. Like, my alarm didn't get pushed back. And, you know, so I was transparent, right? Because shit happens, and shit's going to happen for everybody else too. It's how you handle it, like how you lean in, how you know, you just say you're sorry, you know, and they get to it, right? Because then once we dove in, we actually got a lot of stuff worked through and covered, even though it was only 45 minutes and I would have stayed over, but everybody else had to like leave to do something else, which is fine. Like, it was great. I'm so glad that I decided to, you know, not just, you know, blame it on something else and pretend that I didn't, you know, couldn't get on the call, and that I actually did, you know, get on the call. And that also builds trust with other people because they know that shit happens. And, you know, that shows them that you're human. And it's okay to be human. You're not some guru up here on a stage with your, you know, bullhorn on a podium. Like, and being human and cultivating the community, that's what it's really about. And that's when you get people rallying around each other and bringing other folks in. And yeah, it may be harder in the short term. You may not make all the money in the world right up front. But in the long run, it compounds, right? It's like the snowball avalanche thing rolling down the hill. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes on. So you just got to figure out, what do you want? Do you want the short term full burst fire, or do you want something that like simmers and like burns for a long, long time?
I feel like this whole podcast, I can't wait till it airs, because this is such valuable information. And so I know we're both in Goose's group on school as well. And there was one of the masterminds that I attended that just like really spoke to me, because he was talking about how culture is really just a group of people who are working towards the same goal, right? And it's like those people can vary in so many different ways, but it's just a group of like a safe environment that everyone can thrive in, where you're all shooting for the same end result. Sorry.
Nope, you're fine. Absolutely. And the other thing that I could put into that is like, I see a lot of people that are scared to be themselves, or feel like they have to be this polished, put on person, or, be a certain way. But then what's going to happen is the people that you're going to attract aren't going to be the right people in your space, right? And the more that you can be yourself, like if you like to have fun and you're quirky, or maybe you're a little more fast paced, or maybe you're a rebel, or maybe you're a neurospicy, like the more that you can sink into those quirks, that's what separates you from other people in the same niche. And that's what draws your people to you. And that's what builds the kind of community that actually everybody kind of thrives on. And like there's a buzz that happens, right? Like Goose and I are very similar in a lot of ways. Like as far as like we love having fun, we're both kind of rebellious. He likes rainbows, I like rainbows. I don't necessarily like to wear the rainbows, but like, I'm much more of the blacks and the grayscale and that kind of thing usually. But I love pushing boundaries, and I love to see other people succeed, right? In ways where others have told them, oh, that's never going to work, right? And so like there are a lot of commonalities, but like he and I are also very different. And so like the people that he attracts aren't the people that I would attract. And there is some crossover, but like being able to like figure out yourself and how you can sink more fully into who you are and what you love, that will pay you in dividends in the long run as well.
Yes, so good. And I love there was another one that Sam Ovens said, which was like, marry your niche, not your offer. Like your offer will evolve over time, but like your niche, like who the people that you're working for and serving, like that's like I think the most important part. Because like you said, it's like for me specifically, I work with moms, right? Like I help moms build businesses, but it's because like, hey, I got kids that are, not only do I relate with moms the most, but like I also need an audience that's going to understand that, hey, if last minute, like my husband's, taking an emergency call and now I've got my kids around me that I was not expecting to have, like my audience needs to be okay with that. You know what I mean? And the people that I work with need to be okay with being able to just kind of roll with the punches. And so I think like finding that community and that culture of like, who are the people that I vibe with the most, that are going to get the most out of what I teach, but are also going to be understanding and like being people that I would want to work with. Like, I love that. Finding out like you don't have to be in that like such a scarcity mindset that you're desperate. I think so many people end up in that rabbit hole of just feeling so desperate for things to work or desperate for the money that they end up in a scarcity mindset that makes them take everybody, versus saying, no, this is exactly who I want to work with. This is exactly the right fit of creating the business and helping me thrive, and being okay with saying no to other people because of that. So I
Yep.
absolutely love that. Yeah.
It's really important too, because if you're coming from a place of desperation, that's what I talk to my people about too. Like if you've got a year's worth of savings and you want to jump all in and, have at it, then great. But if you're like living paycheck to paycheck and, that kind of things, and things are really tight, it's better to like dip your toes in other ways rather than trying to like dive in and pay for like 3 school communities and this software and this whatever. because when you put yourself in a position where you need to have something happen in a specific time frame in a specific manner, for most people, there are some people that can put themselves in that situation and climb out like magic somehow. But for the bulk of people, you need to be able to have some sort of cushion or be okay with moving in a manner that allows your nervous system to be okay and to make sure that your bank account doesn't go below what it's supposed to. Because when you start operating out of lack, the desperation seeps through. It seeps through in your messaging when you're talking to people. Then it that can like derail your culture real quick, or make people not want to talk to you anymore because they feel like you're starting to like not be smarmy, but it just comes through. So like do whatever you need to make it so that you're not in that space. And I know that also goes into the mindfuckery stuff. It's like, well, I should be here and I should be doing this, or, that should be going quicker. Like there are things that happen in your mind that kind of put you in a desperate position, but that's, again, you have to be able to get out of your thoughts and remember what's true. And if you have to sell some things, sell some things. If you have to get, a whatever job, do it. Like nobody's going to ask you, 10 or 15 years down the road, if you stick with this and you do the launch thing, like even though it takes longer than everybody else, it's kind of like equated to like potty training or like homeschooling, right? Like we're all like, oh, my kid needs to be potty trained by the time they're 2 or 3, or they should be reading by the time they're 6. Does anybody when they're 18 like get asked what age they potty trained at, or like how old they were when they learned how? No, it just matters that they know how to go to the bathroom and they know how to read. They know how to do these things, right? So if you're able to, like, even if you go slower, in 10 or 15 years, when things are going really well, nobody's going to come back and be like, well, it took you too long. No, right? So there's a way to be able to move and to be able to even just dip your toes in. Even if it's just a little bit here and there, do that. Maybe you don't start a school community right away. Maybe you just join for some free spaces like Michelle's or mine, or like whatever, like to get the layout of school and to like figure out how to get to what you want to do, right? And who it's for, and how you can speak exactly to that person about this thing and, help them realize those pain points that they're going through while they're doing it on their own can be sidestepped by like working with you. Right. But that's a whole process and that's a whole thing. Right. And it takes time to like retrain our brains into like different ways of thinking and different ways of moving. And it's okay if it takes a little bit longer than other people. Who the fuck cares? And if you do, like, I would sit with that. Why does it matter to you so much? Like, what is it serving you? I ask people that a lot. So like you have these things that come up in your brain, right? Oh, this is right, or this is wrong, or maybe I shouldn't do this, like whatever. Okay. Great. Do you know where that's coming from? Like, is it coming from some childhood thing? Is it coming from like some past business failure or like whatever? Where is it coming from? And then what is it serving you? Because we as biological beings do not do something unless it serves us something. Like, yes, we care for our kids because we love them and all of this other things, but it also helps us know that we're doing well as a parent, right? Like, oh, I can't ask for that much money. Okay, where's that coming from? What is that serving? Oh, it makes me feel better about myself because I want to help everyone, right? But then if you're trying to help everyone, you're really not helping anyone because you're not getting clear on the exact thing that you could help with and get those people like better results, right? Like that's a whole rabbit hole like that we could go into. But those are 2 questions. If you have something like that come up in your brain, be like, oh, it's never going to work. Okay. Time to get curious and sit still with yourself, because a lot of people don't know how to sit still with themselves. We've never been taught that. Like we aren't taught that at school. Like, yeah, and some religions and faiths, you're taught to be still, right? And to pray and to do those things. Like maybe your parents taught you a little bit about that, but the bulk of people are never taught that it's good to sit still and to get curious and ask yourself questions. Like ask your brain and figure out where things are coming from and why we're doing the things. Because a lot of the times I think we get stuck on autopilot, which is never good.
Yes, I love it. And we'll definitely have both the links to your community and my community below. But I wanted to start kind of wrapping this up a little bit. Did you have any last bit of advice that you wanted to kind of share with the audience? Of course, these are moms who are trying to either start businesses or grow one that they're struggling with.
My inner being is telling me to tell you that you are enough.
Yeah.
You are enough. Like, you are enough as a mom. You are enough as a business owner. You are enough. You are enough. Right? I think a lot of the times we get so sucked up into all of these other things. Also, the other thing that I love to tell people, in case nobody else has told you today, you're fucking amazing. Like, pat yourself on the back. Get yourself an extra cup of coffee or a piece of chocolate, or, go get your feet on the grass. Like, you're amazing. You're doing the hard things. And especially if you're doing motherhood and business at the same time. Like I say, business is the fastest way to flesh out the inner work. The other one is parenting. And I feel like it takes a special breed of crazy for those of us that are choosing to do that at the same time. It's wild. It's not easy. And if you decide to stop the business, that's perfectly fine, right? Like, whatever, trust your gut, trust yourself, right? And yes, things can be scary sometimes, but trusting yourself and knowing that you are enough regardless makes everything worth it.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for being on here. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me. It was great chatting for a bit.